Warning, this video discusses X-rated crimes and other sensitive topics. Viewer discretion advised.
Mother A, she's serving cunt. Slay.
Totally. She's so mother. She's a cunt. Serve her much?
What was that?
I'm just doing what you're doing. It's Pride Month.
No, it's like mother ate and left no crumbs, and we're starving.
Server, can I get a plate of mother's cunt with a side of slay to go? I already ate.
Don't say mother's cunt, that's weird.
Let me try again. Your mother's a cunt who serves for her job and she eats too much.
What the fuck? I'm literally offended.
Your mother is serving a lifelong sentence in jail for slaying her husband. Orange is the new
jail.
My mother walks into a bar. She says, "Can I get served?" The server says, "No, you just ate." She pulls out a gun and says, "Serve me or get slayed, you F-flirt." He's dead! Jail for my mother, who is sharing a cell with your mother!
Sam, you're scaring me.
Mother dearest ate, or should I say munched, Munchausen by proxy, served Gypsy Rose pills till she gagged, sickening her, so Gypsy slayed her mother. DD Blanchard is a c***. Gypsy Rose is free from jail! Happy Pride, Gypsy!
Happy Pride, Gypsy Rose!
Thank you. Do we have to do that right now? Chapter 18. Compared to Greene County Jail, Chillicothe felt like a playground. Chillicothe wasn't overcrowded and filthy, and I was no longer alone. I lived in a pod that looks more like a dormitory, so I'm told, with a key to a door and roommates. At Chillicothe, it was actually the first time I could explore. I was freer in prison than I had ever been my whole life living with my mother. I found myself frolicking in nature more than I ever could in a wheelchair, watching butterflies and slugs on Volunteer Way. A patch of grass on the side of a concrete courtyard opened my imagination. I was Fraulein Maria twirling on a hill. I was a Southern belle picking dandelions and fighting off Civil War suitors. I was Snow White yodeling to the forest creatures. Bitch, you are psychotic, is what you are. What? I thought about my mother a lot, reflecting on the few happy memories from my early childhood. Outside in my prison playground, I'd remember Frosty the Mardi Gras snowman and the arts and crafts we'd do. I'd still have frequent nightmares. One recurring nightmare I began to have was of me being asleep, lying on my back in my bunk in the dark, and I'd feel something on my chest. In the nightmare, I woke up to a dark figure tearing open my chest and eating my heart. When I woke up from the nightmare, I was in the same position I'd been in the dream. I'd feel paralyzed and frightened with the lights off. When I'd close my eyes, the scene from the nightmare reappeared in my awake state. The demon was there. When I'd open my eyes, it would disappear. You are the demon. And I don't think it goes completely dark in prison. Just guessing. Never been there. Just guessing. Life at Chillicothe had its ups and downs, points of progress and regression. I had gotten clean while at county. Progress, but then the roommate I had in 2018 was still in her addiction, and upon getting her fix of Suboxone, a medication ironically intended to treat opioid addiction, she shared it with me, and I relapsed. Who knew you could get addicted to the drug that's supposed to lead you out of addiction? I began to abuse Suboxone. Regression. There's definitely a pipeline in prison that makes it easy to figure out who has access to drugs. Some women got them smuggled in. Sometimes guards delivered them. Other times visitors passed them off to an inmate. All I had to say was, "I have money," and the dealer would find me and supply me with Suboxone. Buying and selling drugs in prison was risky, as you can get tossed in the hole, which is prison talk for segregation, which is PC talk for solitary confinement. But when you're addicted, there are no limits to what you'll do to score. Despite my addiction and shame, prison life was still an open field of eye-opening experiences. Wherever I turned, I heard and saw things I never imagined existed. I took up smoking cigarettes and heard so much profanity and horror stories of other women's lives. I saw sex in open places. Have you ever had a woman go down on you? One horny woman asked. I never had anything like that from anyone, was basically my answer in between nervous giggles. Want to try? Then she told me if I let her, she'd give me her serving of biscuits and gravy. Okay. I was no longer in contact with Nick, but once in a while, Mike would update me on the details of his trial and the seriousness of his possible sentencing. Nick ultimately received life without parole plus 25 years for armed criminal action. Hearing this made me feel similar to when I heard about my mother's cremation. I didn't love Nick anymore, but I knew the reason he was in this situation was partly because of how he felt about me. One of the many positive things about my time at Chillicothe is a mandatory class I took in 2018. The class was called Impact of Crime on Victims Class, or ICVC for short. The purpose of the class is to raise awareness of the far-reaching consequences of your crime and how your actions impacted the victims. The class was extremely powerful because it was an environment where I could begin to learn to process my past, take accountability for my crime, and understand that my mother was not the only victim of my horrible decision, and you obviously failed. With flying fucking flags. Flying failure flags. One of our very first assignments was to write a letter to the person we committed a crime against. While writing it, I remembered all the people in our lives, my mother's siblings, our neighbors who loved and cared for us, and Nick, all people who were either by blood or by choice taken in by my mother's con act that hurt so many. Wow. No one was affected by you, though. Nope, just by your mother's con, right? I hadn't thought of Nick as a victim before taking this class. While he made the conscious choice to kill my mother, and do so violently, he did lose his freedom, and therefore his life, because I was a catalyst. We're all better off with him locked up, okay? The letter I wrote to my mother gave me a peace that no holy water ever could. What? Just stop. Stop with all of the baptism and the, oh, God save. Just stop it. Stop. Please. Cut it out. I'm not going to read it if I come across it again. I had found my voice and used it to offer my heart and soul to her, finally. I trusted God would deliver her the message and she would forgive me for what I had done. Mother, I am 28 years old and in prison for my part in your murder, and although I can never justify my crime, nor can any letter or apology give back the life that was taken, I am writing this as if you are physically in front of me to express all that I have held in for the whole of my life. I am writing this letter having had nearly 5 years to feel the emotions felt when expressing the words written. Every day since your death, I have had nothing but time to reflect on the choices that have led me to where I am today. Moreover, of how your own actions formed the circumstances around mine. The woman writing this letter to you is far different than the girl who was once broken and desperate to live what I would later come to understand as just an average life for a young woman. Living 23 years of my life with you as my only guardian, the one person who had the responsibility of shaping who I would grow up to become, that's the whole sentence. Living 23 years of my life with you as my only guardian, the one person who had the responsibility of shaping who I would grow up to become, is not a complete sentence. What the fuck is that? Unfortunately, my upbringing was a far cry from that which it should have been. What should it have been, girl? You not lying about being in a wheelchair to scam organizations for money, or what? Starting from my birth, going into my young adulthood, being isolated from having any other human interaction other than with you was lonely, and has affected my ability to have appropriate social skills necessary to make healthy social interactions with others. Well, guess what? Shit happens, okay? You should have stayed married. You should have had more company around. You shouldn't have kept me. I mean, what the fuck is wrong with you? The many unnecessary medical surgical procedures and medications that were forced on me to treat illnesses that I did not have left my body marked with scars, both physical and emotional, and you barely can fucking see any of them, by the way. Your choice to not have me educated growing up has made it difficult to gain the appropriate level of education needed for a woman of my age, and has caused a depleted self-esteem in my ability to make achievements in society. That sentence alone doesn't sound like you're very uneducated to me. When mentioning the overall lack of life experience that was withheld from me by your choice as my mother, you not only took away the normal experiences that shape an individual to be who they are or could be, but you made the choice to keep me from the best things in life that make life worth living as a youth. I mean... Isn't this supposed to be a letter where you're like, I'm so sorry for what I did, not like, fuck you, this is all your fault, bitch, you're the reason why I'm in here. That's like when abusive boyfriends are like, your mouth is the reason why you just got hit kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? You can never do no wrong, right, Gypsy? When mentioning the overall lack of life experience that was withheld from me by your choice as my mother, you not only took away the normal experiences that shape an individual to be who they are or could be, but you made the choice to keep me from the best things in life that make life worth living as a youth. Like what? All the Comic-Cons and cruises and trips to Disney World and meeting a bunch of celebrities that most human beings will never ever experience shit like in their whole entire life. Oh, like that? Oh, wow. What should it have been? More celebrities, more cruises, more trips to Disney World? I mean, girl. The innocent joy of having a first day of school, the fun of going to the mall with friends and buying a dress that would surely never pass your approval. That's what you missed? Okay. The excitement of being asked to prom, the comfort of your embrace when getting my heart broken for the first time, the nerves of awaiting that college acceptance letter. Girl, shut up. These are all things that I was not able to experience, so therefore I stabbed you to death. Oh, he doesn't say that. It would be many years before I was able to fully understand the reasons why I grew up being isolated from others, which you weren't, being taken to hospital after hospital, doctor after doctor, without anything being medically wrong with me. Waiting for the next time your hand was to strike me for simply trying to make a friend. Fear, manipulation, and isolation were all I knew of your kind of love, and the lingering question of why I was unable to be allowed the one thing that everyone else seemed to have, the ability of free will. Well, what do you call those movie parties that you guys would have where you'd walk around the whole neighborhood handing out flyers, telling them about which movie you're going to watch that week because of all the movies that you'd steal when you and your mom would go to the store and you'd shove them under your wheelchair or put them under your ass? You could get 15 at a time from Sam's Club or whatever you said. Remember you'd steal all those movies? And then you'd go around the neighborhood, you and your mom handing out flyers, talking about how you're going to have a big old party and watch them in your backyard with all your neighbors who knew you had a boyfriend named Nick. And then you guys would serve treats and snacks and drinks. Remember that? How quickly we forget. Mom, after all that has happened, I have been searching for answers and spending my time trying to learn about myself as a person, trying to make sense of why all these events unfolded with this amount of tragedy. Because you planned it out that way. I want you to know that I now understand that you were mentally and emotionally unstable when raising me, and that your actions were the result of a disorder called Munchausen by proxy that creates abuse inflicted on a child due to mental illness of the parent. With now having the answers I sought to find, I am able to finally let go of the resentment I held against you and forgive you. Well, it doesn't sound like it. Murder was never the answer or solution. There is not a single day that you go unremembered, and I will carry this regret and remorse for the rest of my life. I will always love you for bringing me into this world, and will remember you with love for the woman I know was a good person behind the mental disorder. Fucking bitch. Going forward, I will take my past and turn it from pain to perseverance, advocating for children who has suffered abuse at the hands of a parent, sharing my story with others to spread awareness that I can educate and make the next child who wonders, why is my mommy doing this to me, that much braver to reach out for help, telling a listening ear before he or she is behind bars for thinking murder is a way out. I can never undo the hurt that was caused by my actions, but I hope by doing this, I am remembering you well and making a positive difference with your memory. I love you, Mom. I'm not sorry. Not one tiny bit. Not even an inkling. Didn't mention it one time. Have zero remorse. Just thanks for bringing me into this world. Sorry what happened was all your fault. Love ya. Bye. Like, what? That shit is wild. Signed, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, 2018, Chillicothe Correctional Center, Missouri. I felt this was so helpful that I signed up for multiple 12-week-long classes. Girl, you had to take those, okay? Those were probably mandatory. I received certificates of completion, which still are valuable reminders of my search for understanding. At one point, I was taking 4 classes at one time. Learning was so much fun. It made me sad that I hadn't had a chance to be a formal student. I was even able to facilitate ICVC and a class called Pathways to Change. For the ICVC class, I needed to be trained to teach, which was really rewarding. This is where I fell in love with the idea of mentoring others. According to the penal system, I didn't qualify for formal psychotherapy. Which was ironic, being that my first stop at Greene County was suicide watch. I was too well for a person who was always told she wasn't ever well. This was surprising to hear. However, I was able to read books on a bunch of issues that definitely affected me. Codependency, PTSD, insecurity, abandonment, personality disorders, addiction, trust, and on and on. Books were a salvation. Sadly, toward the end of my time at Chillicothe, books were banned. They were being used to traffic drugs into the prison. Knowing how much books help, labeling them contraband seemed like a drastic measure that would render itself ineffective in the long run. Where there's a will, there's a way. One very impactful course I took was on codependency. I read about attachment and learned how and why we form attachments, especially dysfunctional ones. Don't they have like a library that you can go to where you can access the internet? I'm pretty sure they do, but I could be wrong. I didn't ever go to prison, nor did I ever go to prison in Missouri. Attachment styles usually begin with the mother. I learned that my attachment to my mother was an insecure one, so I made it my mission to please her on the off chance I could turn some of her other personalities in my favor. My self-worth was dictated by what my mother thought of me, how she reacted to my performances, and the big one, whether or not she'd withhold her love. Love was a dangling carrot that made me jump higher to please her, even if it meant going against what felt right. My brain had felt like a tossed salad for so long, and now insight and knowledge were available to me if I wanted them. I went on a personal quest to discover who I was without my mother, without being judged by my crime. Where other inmates saw confinement, I saw opportunities to learn independence. I even got a job as a janitor. I mopped the floors of the dining room before and after my 30-minute lunch break. I Windexed fingerprints off the plexiglass shields on the sides of the payphones, and I removed crumpled balls of tissue from the visitor's room. Sometimes I worked outside in the yard where I disposed of cigarette butts, fresh wads of gum, and general debris blowing around. For some, that might feel confining, but the prison yard was like a playground to me. Aside from having a job, I was responsible for my own space and had to navigate how to live with other people, how to make friends, or not. Who am I? What makes me tick? I didn't know anything at all. I didn't even know what size clothing I was because I was always dressed in some costume or boys' clothes. The only time I wore a pair of jeans that were hand-me-downs were the night I tried to run off with Dan and when I left the house with Nick after the murder. I didn't know what shoe size I was until I bought my first pair. I mean, just look inside the shoe that you wore. Or what, because your mom took care of you that hard? You didn't have to do shit for yourself, that you didn't even know what size shoe you wore because you never, I mean, give me a break. I don't even want to read this because I've already read this in the other book. Plus, this isn't that interesting. She's talking about herself. I'm not a morning person. I liked having somewhere to be even when somewhere else, blah, 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 blah. The one thing that was similar to life I lived with my mother was living by schedule, except my mother's schedule was set by a timer for medication dosages, in a way that blah, blah, I mean, let's just get to some important shit. Okay, count time, blah, blah, blah. I tried to experiment with my sexuality too. I was pretty sure I was straight, but I tried anyway. Because of sexual abuse I had experienced and the way my mother made me feel dirty in my own womanly body, I had a mental block that prevented me from full satisfaction. I thought perhaps if I experimented with women, I would have a better chance of reaching climax. I think as a younger girl, I was exposed to watching shows like Xena, Warrior Princess. Xena and Gabrielle were lesbians, and I watched it and didn't understand it. When I was around 16, I thought girls were pretty, and that confused me, so I thought, am I gay? There's a saying in prison, gay for the stay, straight from the gate. So when in Rome, I did kiss a couple of girls and became a pillow princess 4 times. That's when you receive instead of give. Nothing ever happened down there, so I figured I was straight. I was trying to bloom and grow. Chillicothe was my greenhouse, not exactly a natural habitat, but good enough to get the job done. In order to bloom, an old part of myself had to wither away. The guilt and the shame that defined me had to be reconciled. The trial and error and experimenting with my persona and testing my interests helped me chisel away at the old insecure self that had been a Frankenstein of my mother's making. The more I learned about what I wanted and needed, the more confident I became in who I was, what I was capable of doing, and the potential I had to go further. The more I learned about my self-worth and forgiveness of myself and others, the more I began to trust my judgment of people, trust that I could tell the difference between friends and foes. Okay. I bet you still don't trust anybody. Oh, I'm not even going to read this bullshit. I mean, I hope you guys don't mind. I mean, can we just get this fucking book over with? Seriously. Mike Stanfield was the one who first told me that my father had been sending money and letters and gifts for me all those years. I didn't believe him. I sent you cards for every occasion, Dad said. But she told me you didn't even know when my birthday was. I sent you a laptop one year. Didn't you get it? But she told me we got that from charity. I left messages on your mama's voicemail wondering about you and wanting to know if she got the money I sent for the operation. But she told me you didn't care about me, that you were all about having a son, and now that you got one, I was dead to you. Do you know how many times I called Dee Dee trying to plan trips with you? Christy said. I even wanted to take you for long holidays. I think that's a lie, though, isn't it? I don't know. But she told me that you were a bitch and that Dad was beating you and you deserved it. Oh my God. Dad and Christy wanted me. They loved me. You would think such news would have elated me, except they just didn't want you when you were in the wheelchair because that was a pain in their ass. Instead, I felt sadder than I ever had, like I was back in the shed, awaking from the dream I had of our happy life. 19. Amour, amour. My public life really began when my family and I participated in the HBO documentary Mommy, Dead and Dearest, which aired in May of 2017. An independent documentary filmmaker named Aaron Lee Carr contacted Dad, Christy, and Mike about doing a documentary about my childhood and interviewing me. There had been so much press coverage surrounding Nick and me, it felt good to have an opportunity to explain my side of the story. They began production as I was awaiting my court hearing before the plea deal, but I remember vividly that I was interviewed hours after I accepted the plea. In the process, I learned so much about what my dad and Christy had gone through too, and hearing from the extended family members was enlightening. It helped provide a context to see how far-reaching my mother's impact had been. None of us expected the response. While yes, there were haters, the outpouring of support was shocking. People from all over the world sent me letters of encouragement, support, and their own stories. My story opened a floodgate for other people's pain, and I think their hope that they too can survive. My heart broke as I read letters depicting graphic abuse, hopelessness, and shame. Family members of imprisoned loved ones wrote to my dad and Christy looking for connection in a club they did not choose to be in. Ooh. One letter in particular stuck out to me. His voice leaped off the page. Let me guess, this is Kin. As if he were sitting right in front of me, holding the paper, I could feel his energy. He was just a cool guy. Hi, my name's Kin. I fucking knew it. Kin. Funny. My mother never liked Barbies, Kin. Fuck it, I thought. Oh, God. I wrote him back. We wrote each other letters and started talking on the phone. He was easy to talk to, and we had so much in common. He was from a big family with lots of siblings, which, having been brought up as an only child, appealed to me. Okay. Well, right there, you don't have that in common, bitch. I imagined their holiday gatherings being really loud and chaotic, and that brought on a smile. I couldn't wait for Kin to visit me. When he did, I was swept off my feet. Dang, he's handsome. After 37 minutes, he leaned over and gave me the most passionate kiss of my whole life. Sorry, it's just weird. It's still weird whenever I look at Kin and think, what kind of a person seeks out someone who's in jail for murdering their mother and is like, yep, I'm going to have a baby with that person. I still think that every time I look at him. He's a cool guy. He seems very nice and funny or whatever, but I literally think that every time I look at him. I just think, you sought out a murderer and thought, I'm going to have a baby with that bitch. Twice. I didn't even know you liked me like that, I said as the guard charged toward us. Yeah, I have for a while, he said. I have for a while too. Poor Kin got kicked out for that kiss since the rule is no touching. I got lucky because that's an offense that can get you thrown in the hole. It was 100% worth it. The first time Kin told me he loved me, I felt like I had taken the most powerful opioid of all. Love was my new drug. Will you be my husband one day? I asked him on the phone after about a year of our friendship and courtship. Of course, he said. And while I hadn't proposed, his confirming that his plans for us would one day be mutual had me walking on air. That's called setting yourself up for a rejection. During an October visit, about a year after that call, disregarding the rules, Kin held my hands close and told me how much I meant to him. I had a feeling a proposal was coming since we'd talk about our future together, but I never expected such beautiful words like the ones Kin spoke to me in the visitor's room. Gypsy, I know you through and through, and I love you for who you are today, for the heart I've come to know. Then Kin motioned his hand over his chest, over his heart, and continued, I want to spend every day waking up next to you. Building a life with you and being the one that you can come to through all the hard times. I want to be that one for you. Will you marry me? Yes. I mean, maybe I'm just jealous. I don't know. No one's ever asked me to marry them. Maybe I need to kill somebody. I don't fucking know. I don't understand it. I will never understand it. I will never understand it. That's all I can say. It's literally all I can say. I will never, ever understand what my problem is. But, maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's the problem. He couldn't propose with a ring because of prison restrictions on bringing offenders gifts. I did find a silver band for sale on the black market in prison. An inmate was getting a divorce and was selling her silver band, so I bought it. It was confiscated shortly after. We kept our engagement private, only telling our closest family, and then the act aired on Hulu, and I went from being known to being a pseudo-celebrity. My personal life was a carcass for vultures to feast on. The media, including true crime armchair enthusiasts, investigated everything about me, including Ken. The invasion was really hard on him. After an acquaintance of one of my family members leaked my relationship, clickbait articles appeared mockingly announcing our engagement. Ken was a private person and was bothered by the attention and scrutiny. The news of our engagement reached Nick, who sent me a letter in 2019, not too long after he got sentenced. Basically, Nick said I was committing adultery, that he had taken my virginity when he raped me, and that by God's law we were married. The letter was reminiscent of his dominant role that he was obsessed with playing out when we had our internet relationship, and well, he's still delusional, still good old Nick. His attempt to control me and humiliate me as his submissive for his own deviant sexual pleasure had gotten old, only because I was in a healthy relationship with Ken, who was my best friend, who made me feel special and appreciated. Was I finally able to see how pathological Nick and I were when we were together? I wrote him one letter back, which acted as a closure letter. Co-defendants in the state of Missouri can communicate and even be housed together. That's a bunch of malarkey. But becoming pen pals, no pun intended, was never my intention. In the letter to Nick, I told him I didn't want to get back into a relationship with him, that I'd moved on. I covered everything I wanted him to know from A to Z, from getting arrested all the way to present, about how I felt. How we were basically children, adults with mindsets of children going through this ordeal. I told him I realized he didn't have much outside experience, and I understood that, and I felt a sense of guilt, which is why I testified on his behalf at his trial. I felt that taking accountability for my role was the right thing to do. I didn't do it out of love, but out of a sense of obligation and due diligence to justice. I needed to make sure I was clear on that because I didn't want Nick to misconstrue my letter for wanting to be with him. I thought at first that it was Ken's discomfort with the popularity of the act and the widening of my reputation that led him to end our relationship. Oh, well, I guess they ended the relationship. We're gonna mention that. I was wrong. At the time of this writing, Ken has reached out to explain and set the record straight. There were many adults in his life, presumably much wiser than he, who suggested it wasn't the right time for me to be married. For you? What? Girl, honestly, this book would be so much better if you just were like more... And then next week, on this week, Ken and I got married. And then the following day we got, 3 months later, we were, if you were just more like, if you actually wrote this more like a child than trying to be fancy and like blend all these bullshit together. It's so fucking confusing and hard to read. It's like, I think you do it on purpose. I think you do it to like distract people from, the truth or whatever. It's the worst written book. I don't care how many people wrote this book. You all suck. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. The rite of passage of losing my first love happened alone in prison instead of in my bedroom, surrounded by girlfriends playing me a breakup mix and us eating pints of Ben & Jerry's. Girl, you're so fucking delusional. Like in the movies. It was a time when I missed my mom, a time that should have been shared between a mother and a daughter, but never would be because you killed her. I thought about drugs. I thought about the smock. Instead, I cut off all my hair and made depression my new friend. My faith, along with the passing of time and lots of crying to Christy, revealed that God had a plan for me. Another blessing. I don't want God in my life. If God makes you act like this or be like this, I'm sorry. I'm not a religious person anyway, but it's not that I'm not spiritual. It's just people who talk about God are fucking weird. They're weird. I'm sorry. Y'all are going to hate me for saying that, but they are. They're fucking weird. You can be faithful and you can have, whatever you believe in. You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to talk about it because talking about it isn't the purpose, isn't the point of it. It doesn't say in order to, be whatever you think is happening when you're being religious. The only way it's going to happen is if you talk about it to others as if it's any of their business or they care. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. It's totally controversial, but it's just how I feel. Just like you can be married to somebody for your whole entire life and never actually get married or sign a piece of paper. It's just a piece of paper. But people do it for religious reasons and tax reasons. But you know what I'm saying? If you're like hippie-ish, you don't have to like, get all formal about it. People only do that for tax and religion. And I would venture to say the tax part is probably more important. Oh, the other blessing is Ryan? Oh, come on. I mean, seriously.
Hey guys, it's me, Ryan. Yikes!
Ryan came into my life during a time when I had hardened my heart. Rebound? Maybe. I couldn't see that then. He was very charming. His deep voice and familiar southern accent made me feel safe and special. Having grown up in Louisiana, Ryan felt like home to me because Ryan was also a proud Louisianian. We bantered about his favorite football team, the New Orleans Saints, and mine, the Kansas City Chiefs. I could learn to love the Saints. I'd say all flirty on the phone. I had lived in Louisiana and Missouri after all, but for a deprived child, you had a sports team that you liked? Give me a break. But I didn't want to trust again. Girl, you never did trust. Let's just be real. There was that choice once more. I was still stuck. My fear and feeling that I wasn't good enough were like brick walls that I couldn't bust through. Do I let Ryan in? Do I try this again and risk getting hurt? Ryan's sense of humor lifted my vibrations, and he laughed at my jokes too. Soon I was growing impatient for our next phone call. We had deep conversations about life, about pop culture, and about our hopes for the future. He shared with me his fears and vulnerabilities and his kryptonite. In return, I spilled every dark moment I had growing up. Ryan was the only person I had been able to finally open up to and not feel ashamed for my actions and past. We prayed together. We planned together. Some say he was my distraction and he afforded me something happy to look forward to day after day. Even though Ryan wasn't in prison, I think I was the same for him. Ryan and I fought too, like any old regular couple. But I thought you didn't want to be a couple. I thought you were like, oh, I just want to be friends. I kept telling him I just want to be friends. But he forced it on me. I showed my ugly side to Ryan. Your front side? Huh? Nothing. You know, like that point in a new relationship when you fart or leave the bathroom door open? I worked out a lot of shit with him, tossing him my baggage. I'd feel bad after the fact about doing that, but then he'd toss me his baggage and I'd say, oh, okay, we're doing this. Ryan learned my triggers, and I his. Once he told me you're my heart, and my body felt like it was trapped in a room filling up with water, so I cussed him out. He didn't know my mother had said that to me constantly. I mean, what a bitch. You're my heart? Who says that to somebody? Not my mom, I can tell you that much. It's inevitable that the things that my mother did and said, and how I was raised, will affect certain decisions and behaviors moving forward. Oh, because when people say something that your mom said, it reminds you that you're a piece of shit because you killed her, and that's why you get mad? I'm gonna guess that's what it is. Ryan and I talked multiple times throughout the day and for hours before bed. This enables us to blah, blah, blah. We already know about all this crap. As a teacher, Ryan's natural demeanor was to take charge, and that personality trait seemed to rattle me, reminding me of how I was raised. Not to mention he's like 7 foot tall and 4,000 pounds. Alone and tired of crying over the latest argument Ryan and I had, I thought I could share my fear and confusion with some trusted friends, writing, "Hi friends, I just want to let you know that I'm thinking about going forward with an annulment. I was hoping my friends would talk me off the ledge, tell me it was normal to feel this way, that the finality of being married sinks in for so many newlyweds, and that would be that, but they didn't. They knew we weren't supposed to be together, but like every other lesson I've learned in life, I'd have to figure that out on my own." Chapter 20. Sour Sweet. I had managed to be in prison for about 6 years without going to the hole. Drugs didn't get me there. Ken's passionate kiss didn't get me there, nor did bad behavior. Of a population of roughly 2,500 at Chillicothe, it's rare to meet a woman who hasn't been in segregation. I prided myself on being one of the few. That was strategic because unlike many inmates, I had something to lose. Release. I was careful and hell-bent on letting nothing get in the way of my parole. I kept my head down and only hung around with my closest friends, Lori and Amelia. Getting involved in the business of rival groups was a surefire way to be charged with a new crime that could add time to your sentence. Hell no. If there was drama, I looked the other way. A fight? I'd rather slither out of the rec room. It was September 2021. I had a little over 2 years until my eligible parole date of December 2023, but I had been preparing for my upcoming meeting with the parole board in December of 2021. In Missouri, inmates who have completed 85% of their sentence fulfill the mandatory minimum and meet with the parole board for the first time. Ryan and we'd patched up our differences, began to dream out loud about the fantasy of me getting paroled early. At worst, the 24 months gave us a timeline to splash pin marks through. Ryan described the apartments he was scoping out for us. Those phone calls discussing my wish list for a home made my days pass more quickly and easily. The last time I made such a wish list was for Habitat for Humanity. It was for a playhouse, a ramp, and a hot tub. They were like, we're not gonna do the hot tub, but okay. She's all, I want a bondage room. My mother was the one who had the idea to paint it her favorite color, pink. My taste grew up as I did. Now, instead of a life-size Barbie dream house, I wanted granite countertops and stainless steel appliances and hardwood floors and high ceilings. And I definitely needed a patio or a terrace, somewhere I could go to get some sun and breathe fresh air whenever I pleased. That would be the best part of our freedom, to be in nature. One morning at around 10 a.m., I was in my pajamas having my morning coffee, watching the Food Network, when a CO, corrections officer, appeared in the doorway. Miss Blanchard, I need you to come with me. Okay, I said, furrowing my brows. I was really nervous as I followed him down to the rotunda, where another guard stood. Is he waiting for me? The CO said nothing. He simply presented me to the guard, handed me over, and walked away. What? Wait, is this a joke? What am I in trouble for? What did I do? I spun my head around as if the answers could be found in the air around me. I don't know, said the guard, but I got to put the handcuffs on you. His demeanor was neutral as he took me by the arm and walked me outside the housing unit and into a holding cell where there was another inmate sleeping. I spotted an intercom and buzzed it, unclear of who might answer. Yes, said the voice. Excuse me, why am I downstairs? You're under investigation, the voice said. For what? I asked, my face burning. We don't know. Nobody knew anything, yet I was held here for 3 days until I had a committee hearing to determine my penalty for my mystery infraction. Do you know why you are under investigation? The sergeant asked during the hearing. The last time somebody asked me that question, I was in a sheriff's office in Wisconsin. This time I was telling the whole truth. No, not at all, I said, wiping the sweat from my palms. Well, we don't either, he said. An ominous feeling came over me. I knew this feeling. It was the same feeling I had when my mother wheeled me against my will to the shed. Oh, God. I didn't know why I was in trouble. There was no reasoning with anyone. I'm not in control. Uh-oh. What's happening? What's going to happen now? I cried. You've been assigned to segregation. The hole? I wanted to jump out of my chair and run. What in the holy fuck? What did I even do? Being escorted to the hole felt like a funeral procession. Other inmates who were walking around camp had to stop walking, turn their backs to me as I walked behind the CO. They would remain frozen like that until we passed through. My tears streamed down my khaki uniform, turning it dark brown, the color of dirt, as I moved slowly toward what felt like my final resting place. I was being buried alive, and the gravediggers had no idea why. How will Ryan and my parents know where I am? For sure they'll be worried when they don't hear from me. Gossip travels like wildfire in prison, but a story about the hole travels at lightning speed. My friend Lori was told by another inmate that I was taken down. She called Ryan and told him what had happened. Ew, why did she have his number? Weird. Without explanation, everyone's imaginations went wild. Was Gypsy in the hole because of one of Ryan's visits? Did they kiss or touch too intimately? Could she have gone back to drugs? Did another inmate make up a story to fuck with her? God. Ryan called the prison, but they wouldn't tell him anything either. Finally, I was informed that I was put in the hole because they were investigating me for a potential plan to escape prison. My parole hearing is in a few months, and I have already done the majority of my time, I said. I would never do that. I'm not fucking crazy, y'all. It really said that. Being in the hole for a solid 2 weeks was the same as being kidnapped. I had no access to time or people. I sat there in the dark, not knowing my fate or how long the punishment would be. I was defenseless, in the dark, literally and figuratively. closely. There was non-stop noise in the hole. Screaming was incessant. There was a woman next door to me who screamed all hours of the night. Shrill noises I couldn't shake from my ears. Banging and arguing echoed through the day. Day and night I was being assassinated by sounds of desperation. To keep myself sane, I envisioned the apartment Ryan was hunting for. Maybe the bathroom will have a dressing table to put makeup on and do my hair? I should add that to my wish list. I prayed to God a lot. God, give me the strength to survive this. I mean, it hasn't worked before. I'm just saying. Okay. Please don't let this affect my parole. I put all my faith in God that he had gotten me this far. I thanked him for sending me his blessing when the courts showed me mercy. I mean, are you talking to the dude when you're not in trouble? Just asking. I don't want to be greedy, God, but please can you send me another blessing? In the hole, I could only take a 5-minute shower twice a week, and it's a cage shower, so you're standing under the sprinkler, naked in front of the female guards. When you go into the cage shower, there's a cubby hole for you to put your hands through, like the ones in the Western movies, so guards can uncuff you from the other side, like in the Western movies. There was a toilet in my cell, so I had to do my business out in the open. I mean, what? Yeah, that's prison. That's jail. You do your business in front of everybody. What? The goal is to take away your dignity. Mine was flushed on day 1. Where the fuck else have you been? Were you at the Hotel Hilton? Were you at the Four Seasons? I mean, in prison and jail, you do everything in front of everybody. I'm so confused. For 2 weeks, I was reminded that I had no rights. Someone wrote on social media something like, "She doesn't belong in prison. I wish I could bust her out." An unknown source reported the post to the prison, and that was it. Authorities went through my stuff looking for writings or plans or any correspondence that indicated I knew the person who wrote the troublemaking post, which I didn't. Letting me out of the hole came with as much explanation as going in. Poof. Suddenly, I could go back. An inmate who rejoins population after segregation looks markedly different, weathered, like a prisoner of war failing to assimilate to their regular life. Well, I mean, you're kind of lucky that you got 2 showers a week, because I've heard that you don't get shit when you're in the hole. Nothing is regular again after hole time. Whole time! I still have nightmares. In one dream, they put me in the hole for being Wiccan. In another, male guards put me in the hole for not stripping for them on demand. In another dream, I'm in a cell in the hole, and Ryan is in an adjacent cell, and we whisper to each other through the vents. Upon returning to population, I did my best to resume my normal routine. My parole hearing was still set for December 9th, but I was freaking out for 2 months straight that my time in the hole would tarnish my parole eligibility December 2023, and I can only imagine that it didn't, because I think it would have if they had questioned her before she had gone in and there was like a written report or whatever, but it sounds like they were just doing an investigation or like tossing her cell just to find out if there was anything that she had written that would, corroborate the statement. It wasn't like an actual incident that happened. There was a report and they had to question her and submit the answers, so. But I can only imagine that she would have been freaking out. Around 9 a.m. on the day of the hearing, Christy met me in a visitation room where we sat with Deputy Warden Amy Parkhurst and video conferenced in 2 other members of the parole board. I had asked Christy to be my delegate to speak on my behalf. One of the men on the screen asked me questions, none of which were about the crime itself. They were interested in hearing from me personally about my upbringing and relationship with my mother. I told him a little about the abuse. He asked me where I had met Nick. He said he was not familiar with my case, at least the details of it. Bullshit. I think that's like their job, is to know the details of your case so that they can judge whether or not you're remorseful of it. Come on. Give me a break. He said he was not familiar with my case, at least the details of it, so I explained our story. Then he wanted to hear about the programs I participated in and completed while at Chillicothe. I showed my certificates and also my GED. I remember him saying he was proud of me. Interesting. He even complimented me on only having 13 minor infractions, which are just write-ups, and I think most of them were all the same thing, which is she had a subscription to Cosmopolitan that she never ended, and it would come every month, and every month she would get a write-up for it. It's like, girl, cancel the fucking subscription. Stupid ass. Have you had any mental health treatment while you've been here? Deputy Warden Parkhurst asked, because you do need it. No, ma'am, I tried, but did not qualify. Deputy Warden Parkhurst looked at me like I was crazy. I'm just kidding. Deputy Warden Parkhurst validated the trauma I endured, and she encouraged me to seek therapy upon my release, and then thought to herself, why the fuck was she not qualified? Christy jumped in enthusiastically saying she has loving parents and siblings and we will all get her the support she needs. Heck, we'll all go into therapy. Oh, shut up, Christy. Deputy Warden Parkhurst explained that it takes the board up to 4 weeks' time to make their decision. That was a Thursday. By the following Monday, I was called to the office of the institutional parole officer to give me my letter in person. I stood before her, took a deep breath, held it, and opened the seal. Gypsy Rose Blanchard, release date December 28th, 2023. Being granted early parole, I felt like a pregnant woman waiting out the first trimester to share her news. Believe me, I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. Okay, hold on. Being granted early parole, I felt like a pregnant woman waiting out the first trimester to share her news. What? Where did you make up that weird-ass rule? What the fuck are you talking about? You've never been pregnant before! What are you talking about? What in the fuck are you talking about? Believe me, I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. I'm being released on December 28th, 2023. Y'all! But there was too much at stake. People in prison get jealous of short-timers. They'd call my sentence baby time. Sometimes they even retaliate and try to get you in trouble to jeopardize parole. After going to the hole for no reason at all, I couldn't risk anyone finding out. I started eating alone, keeping to myself. Well, that wasn't obvious. I mean, you think the people who haven't been there 40 years before you got there don't know what you're doing? Give me a break. Oh, motherfucker, you think you're slick. I think some people suspected something was up because I'm a chatterbox by nature. Yeah, dirt. We also wanted to keep the media from finding out I was getting released 2 years early. Who the fuck is we? After the act, there was a lot of gossip. I didn't want haters to dampen the hope I had in my heart. Ryan moved into our apartment before me, decorating it with fleur-de-lis pillows and wall art, the symbol of New Orleans. The fleur-de-lis was my mother's go-to accessory around the house and in our front yard. There will be no beige anywhere, Ryan said, assuring me our color scheme would be bright and happy with gold accents everywhere. You've seen enough beige for a lifetime. He told me he'd tested out the kitchen making gumbo. He joked that rivaled my dad's. I could smell the Cajun seasoning. I could see Ryan in a silly apron that said something like, I don't need Google, I have Gypsy. You wish. Maybe we'd even get a dog. I was letting myself go to the places in my imagination that I had been afraid to go. I was no longer afraid to let myself hope. Or trust. Again, I don't think you ever did. I thought we were skiing downhill with the wind at our backs. Our monthly countdown whittled to weeks, and the X's I pinned on the calendar felt like kisses. My dad and Christy and Ryan planned the logistics of my release date. I, on the other hand, was focused on what really mattered. What will I wear? Stupid. I wanted to look pretty for Ryan, but I had never planned an outfit before. I mean, just wear what every girl wears out of there. A pair of gray sweatpants, a white t-shirt, and some white sneakers. I still giggle at how lost he must have looked roaming around the women's department trying to tell the difference between skinny jeans and high-rise and boot cut. Oh yeah, especially since you don't know what size you are. I'm pretty sure he went back to exchange them 3 times. The real challenge was the shoes. He needed to pick out just the right pair, but also guess my shoe size. Well, measure your fucking feet, you stupid ass weirdo. Ryan would then mail my ensemble and shoes in a dress-out box with my name on it, which I would change into the morning of my release. I had an actual day, December 28th, you said that. I said it over and over again, never getting sick of the sound. Someone just pinch me, please. Well, the joke was on me. One day in August, about 4 months before my release, I was in the canteen when a bunch of inmates approached me. We know you got parole. I tried to play dumb, but you can't out-scam a bunch of scam artists. Blindsided and angry, I called Dad and Christy. We had managed to keep it under wraps for almost a year until someone leaked the story to In Touch Weekly. It was, we think, someone Christy had told in confidence. Or maybe it was Christy. And it was a hard lesson and a warning about what we needed to do when I was released. Keep our circle small. I mean, they were filming a show at that time, weren't they? Pretty sure. Wasn't it Life After Lockup? Just saying. I tried to put the negativity of the snitch out of my mind. Finally, my future was the near future. One more holiday season to cycle through, and I'd be with Ryan on New Year's Eve. What would we do? How would we celebrate the beginning of 2024? While it felt like a tease to be released just 3 days after Christmas, having the week between Christmas and New Year's to celebrate my freedom, the best week of the year. Christy went into her usual take charge mode, looking for a rental house in Overland Park, Kansas, just over the Missouri line that would fit all of us. Her hands cramped from wrapping so many presents, and she and Mia were my personal shoppers because I wanted to have gifts for everyone too. Christy and Mia bought confetti, party decorations, and baked a buttercream frosted sheet cake, complete with rainbow sprinkles and candles that spelled out "Celebrate." When Ryan, why wouldn't it just say like "Welcome home"? Weird. When Ryan told me that the Kansas City Chiefs were playing the New Orleans Saints on New Year's Eve, I was psyched. This was a sign, the two cities I'd grown up in playing on such a special night. It wasn't just a sign, it was symbolic. My dad bought us tickets for seats in the 6th row. Ryan ordered me a bunch of Chiefs swag, including a pom-pom ski hat, while he coordinated his own over-the-top Saints garb. The plan was to have our first New Year's kiss at Arrowhead Stadium. What better way to spend the new year than to ring in a new life? I mean, that pom-pom hat don't remind you of that bullshit you used to wear when you'd pretend you were like 13 years old when you were 25 or whatever.
What about Jesse?
What about Jesse?
Stop playing around with her.
Yeah, what about Jesse, man?
Linebacker Jesse.
Everybody's got their money on Jesse.
Everybody go sub to Jess, man. Get her popping.